cars, then there is no pollution.
If we, what?
If you make your flying cars, then there is no pollution.
I fully agree, but I'm not sufficiently skilled yet to do that. And right at the moment, my thought is we have so many combustion cars. Many people cannot afford to buy a new car immediately, even if the price is low, but they have a car. And if we could add something to the car very cheaply to reduce pollution, I see it as a good thing as a temporary solution until we get the right transportation you give us. And this is why I would like to ask this question. I can add that the principle of the Gans bags, I made 2 bags 3-to-1, and I put in 80% CH3 and 20% CO2, and I mounted it on the fuel line of the car when I drove to Sweden to install the other bags. And it was quite astonishing that this Skoda Fabia car I drove, it was a mixture of ordinary road and highway, and the consumption was only 5.7 liter per 100 kilometers, even if I was up driving 130 kilometers. I should not say that, but I find that quite interesting that it's possible to get more power and lower consumptions in such a simple way. And now to the question itself, because Paul gave me a tip. He said to me, if you have a combustion engine and in the plane of the top gasket of the engine, between the cylinder and the top of the motor where you have the combustion chamber, if you in that plane put a tube in front of the cylinder and the tube in back of the cylinder, and you put CO2 in one of them, and you put CH3 or one of the other hydrogen gases in there, depending on how much power you want, put it in there, then you can also get more power and reduce the mileage. But and I have decided that as a low priority for me, I will test this on my mower, this to cut the grass on this motor, because if something goes out of control, it's not that expensive to destroy it. And after that, I would like to put it on my wonderful motorcycle to increase the performance of that. But I'm concerned about how is the energy released. Is the energy of the field released because you have a spark in the motor, or because something happens with the fields when the gasoline burns in the motor? Maybe you could explain a bit about that. Because if we can do this in a controlled way, we can design these tubes and sell them to people for very low price, and then we can reduce pollution and reduce consumption of fuel. And every time you pull up 1 liter of fuel from Mother Earth, you pull up mercury and other poisons. So I don't like that. Please explain.
The system for automotive is the only way you can reduce pollution is by reducing consumption or reducing burning the fuel. So you got to realize one of the points with this technology is you look at the material side, you look at the matter side, but with introducing plasma into the system, like a motor car, you introduce an alternative fuel. And if you look at it, in reality, at the end of the day, at the end of the process of the engine, combustion engine, you create a plasma. So you realize more and more that the system works because you create a hybrid. Just because you don't put it in there, it doesn't count. It does count quite a lot. Those people who have used these systems even for the car, they say that even the steering is lighter, because then the plasma condition affects the whole positioning. You change the position. If you use a CO2, if you use a copper oxide, you find that driving is not so comfortable. If you use a CH3 more and CO2, you find it more comfortable. Because of the gravitational magnetic fields you release in the car, you create in the car. It says people look at medical aspects and the practical aspects of this technology totally on the matter state. When you add, even if you carry a bag of CO2 in your car or a bag of CH3 in your car, you create a condition of positioning. It's not just that the bag is there. Now you have created a different field force of the whole car in respect to the Earth. The Earth doesn't look if it's something somewhere. The Earth looks at the, like what you call gravitational magnetic field positioning. So there is a limit. We looked at this years ago. How much Gans of CH3 we have to put in the car before the car floats? It's possible. It's quite possible. Somebody one day will do. If you put a bag of CO2 on the roof, then you find out, okay, I put maybe 20 kilos of CH3 on my roof. It's going to be harder. Then you find out most probably you fly. You can levitate with it. This is the reality. If you put in the front and the back, you find out the steering is much easier. These are the things I used to teach years ago. And I just don't consider it anymore. But in fact, we looked at this scientifically, because the more mass ratio, the more you have, the more interaction has to be. And try the CO2 and try CH3. And you see how you position yourself. You're steering, you think, why should I carry 100 liters of gas on top of my car? I will do it if I don't have to spend fuel or expense money. I carry 200 kilos, and when I don't have to spend for fuel, I don't create any. But if you don't want to carry the CH3 on the roof of the car, the alternative is to create a concentration of CH3 in the dynamic reactor. The position is that tube you look at, or the other tube, or you put something somewhere. You have changed the field positioning of the car. This is what I keep on saying. In this technology, look at the field, not the matter of how much you put in there. And that's all it is. The fuel consumption is because you have reduced the interaction, friction, so you use less. And then if you can turn it around the car totally, that the field flow of the plasma goes around the car, you can go. In Peru and in some American structures, Keshe Foundation, they achieve 60 systems, and for this purpose. We understand the totality of the work. You create a new Magrav positioning, and that is the reason. I just leave.
Hello, Mr. Keshe.
Yes, no problem. For it creates a new Magrav positioning. When you put a bag in your car, you have created a new condition. It's not the bag, it's the fields which the bag creates.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
If you tighten it to the chair or put something on it, you might get a better results, because the bag might just lift a little bit inside.
Okay, so you are actually saying that the roll resistance of the wheels is reduced because of reduced weight, right?
Yes, correct, 100%.
But that also reduced in increased braking distance if you need to brake?
We did a test with the scientists in Ghent University, Um, if you use a nano coated material on your brakes, it makes it worse or faster. But if you use a field as you're doing, the positioning makes you less friction. This is one of the problems with what do you call it, Magrav positioning systems. You'll find that even the cars next to you behave differently too, as was tested in Philippines. If you can try and load the car, the roof, put a roof rack and put water on it, of the Gans or Ganses on it, not necessarily the water of the Gans, and see if you get any performance difference. And I'm prepared to carry 100 kilo of weight on my roof and reduce my consumption by 40–50%. And this is what actually happens. You can carry a pure Gans, you reduce your, but it has to be, you have to see which Gans, what ratio gives you the best result.
Yes, I don't know if I understood this right. Returning to the tube near the combustion chamber, because what I'm worried about is the control of it. If the effect is static but constant, and I need to be able to take throttle off so that it has idle.
It's got nothing to do with the throttle. It's nothing to do with the throttle. It's the field positioning which creates. I will not
also,
do it. What will be interesting on your lawnmower will be see if the height of the grass is different, with or without it. See if the grass is shorter or longer as you cut.
Yeah, but in the,
I've done many of these experiments. It's very funny when you do it and then you see it.
Okay. But still, the tubes very close. The tubes with Gans is very close to the combustion chamber.
Doesn't matter. The chamber doesn't count. The two tubes create a field across them. This is what I tell you. You have to look at the field, not what is the tube, where it is.
Yeah, it's not. No, the tube is just the container.
No, I'm going to stop. Can I just say something? Because we want to go to something else. Today is not for these things. You put a bag of CO2 in the front of the car and a bag of CH3 in the back of the car, and you tell me what's the difference, how car feels. You have to experiment. We've done a lot of these experiments, and you see how much your fuel consumption